Welcome to the Billy Slater Podcast. Hello, Billy.
G'day, Salty. We racked up the frequent flyer points this weekend, didn't we?
Didn't we? What?
Over to Perth, back to Sydney. Now you're in Brisbane, I'm in Melbourne.
And you even had a marriage proposal over in Perth as well. All happening was in the West.
I did. So, unfortunately declined, but yeah, you can't get married twice, can you? I'm sure some have tried.
Might be different laws over in the West. We were discovering a few of those over the last couple of days. But so much to look forward to over the next half hour or so, discussing what happened on the weekend. Let's start at the game we were at yesterday, and what an atmosphere. Terrific game of football as well, but What an afternoon at Belmore.
It was incredible, Salty. It was one of those games or one of those atmospheres where you just wanted to play. As an ex-player, you know, the vibe around the stadium, it took me back to, I don't know, you know, I was born in 1983, but it took me back to the 80s. And the game, all we needed was Tina Turner singing Simply the Best and Terry Lamb running out, and it just had that feel about the game's in a really good place. You know, the fans were fantastic. I've got to say, I was doing an interview with Jamal Fogarty as he got off the bus, and the fans all around us were right in and amongst the players, and I was getting photos with fans, and they just had the utmost respect. I've got a great respect for the Bulldogs fans and the people that wear the blue and white. And I've got to say that it was a very respectful environment, and all the kids used their manners. And it was just a really good feel. And to see that sea of blue and white, it would have been a great environment to play a game of footy, even for the Raiders boys.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a question on the Bulldogs, and I'll put it this way, Billy. I think they're going to be the sort of team that other sides won't want to play come September. They approach their footy in a terrific way, both sides of the footy. Well,
they work hard. They work hard. Cameron Ciraldo has got a great work ethic himself, and he's instilled that within his group. I noticed in the first couple of sets that the Bulldogs fans actually know their team, and they were cheering the efforts of their team. Viliami Kikau on his kick chases, their line speed, and whenever they took a metre off the opposition without the football, and all those little things in the game that I'm sure Cameron Ciraldo and his coaching staff would be celebrating today. They'll be reinforcing those efforts within, you know, the four walls of the Bulldogs. Their supporters know those efforts, and they can see those efforts, and that's what's putting them in the position they're in. They're inside the top 8. They're that far away from sealing their finals berth in quite a few years. And, you know, they've had a few tough years, the Bulldogs, not just a few tough weeks, a few tough years. And the scenes around Belmore yesterday just showed you that going through those tough times, sticking with your footy team and enjoying these moments now, it looks like they're going to play finals this year, the Dogs.
One player I want to ask you about is Jacob Preston, who burst onto the scene last year, and he was magnificent, I thought, yesterday. Some terrific runs. There's more fancy teammates that he has there, but he's playing some terrific football. Yeah,
he is. He's got Viliami Kikau on the other side of the field that, you know, he shines every time he plays, and he's a great leader to look up to. He's a young player, Jacob Preston, and there was one moment in the game where you could see his footy IQ. Reid Marnie got the ball off the cuff. I think it was off an offload, and he drifted across the field. And Jacob Preston saw some space in behind, and he just led for a kick. He didn't quite get the ball, but he forced a repeat set. It was a play that you could tell that he understands the game, and he's willing to go out and put himself in that position to get his play on. He led for the former captain of the team, Reid Marnie, and Reid Marnie kicked the footy to the space, and that just shows you the IQ of that Jacob Preston has of the game, and he does all that little tough stuff as well. And when you play in the back row, you've got to have a good balance to your game. You've got to have the effort. You look at Liam Martin and all the great back rowers. They've got to have the effort and the working hard for your team. But then you've also got to have that point of difference. And the great back rowers in Eli Katoa and Jeremiah Nanai, they're a real point of difference on the edge, and Jacob Preston is building that in his game.
Certainly is. This is the Billy Slater Podcast. Thanks to Ram Trucks, eats everything else for breakfast. Now, one of the other big talking points from over the weekend, the Dragons' first win in Melbourne since 1999. I mean, you weren't even signed with the Storm back in 1999.
I was still at school, only just hanging on by the skin of my teeth at school.
Robbie Ross probably would have been the fullback, I dare say, back in those days.
But, Robbie Ross, he was there. Melbourne won the comp that year against the Dragons. Yes. We all remember that one. And when you said it off the top of the show, this is the first time that the Dragons have won in Melbourne in this century. Like that puts it into perspective. What a win it was. And I'm sure Shane Flanagan would have reminded his players of that. That's an incredible record for the Melbourne Storm to start with. I wasn't aware of that, but for the Dragons, it's a real shot of confidence, isn't it? It's a confidence boost week for them, and they had to do it the hard way. Melbourne had all their players back. I think Xavier Coates is probably the only one missing at the moment. Cameron Munster back in the starting team. And they had to work really hard. It was a 2-point ball game for a long time at the end of the game there, and Melbourne were coming, and we all know the attacking weapons that Melbourne have in their team, and they were coming for the Dragons, and the Dragons stood tough and defended their way to victory, and I'm sure Shane Flanagan will be really proud of his team.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what it does do, and we've got Saturday night rugby league returning to 9 this week, just in time. We're heading to Cogra, Dragon v Bulldog, Billy, on Saturday night. That will be a terrific night.
That'll be a super game, won't it? Both teams in form, both teams pushing for finals. I did hear yesterday, I think it was Freddie that said that they don't like each other either. So I could imagine that Cogra would be full. I don't think Cogra's not far from Belmore, so you would imagine there'll be a lot of blue and white in the stadium. There'll be a lot of red and white, and it'll be a great contest because they're both very physical teams and they both go after their footy.
Yeah, it'll be another terrific night at the Suburban Rugby League ground as well. We've had a few of them over the course of the last week or so looking forward to that. Now, let's talk about rugby league in southeast Queensland and let's start off with a positive, Billy. The Gold Coast Titans, they're back end of this season, or basically from the middle of the season. Boy, they're playing some good footy. Great
incredible,
to watch.
Isn't it? It's absolutely incredible, and the resilience to come back. They lost their first 6 games of the year, and heads were down. Then they lose their captain in Big Tino. Big Tino did his knee in and around that time as well, and like that's a lot to overcome. New coach through the off season, and they've really bought in, and they're playing some great footy. They're not just playing tough and defending well. They're really going after their attack as well, and everyone's contributing, and they put the Broncos away. That's a huge win for the Titans, and they still remain in the race. There's a handful of teams that'll miss out on the finals, and it'll be due to the next 5 weeks. We've got 5 weeks of the competition, and the Titans are one of those teams. They're well within this race, and if they win all their games, they'll probably play finals. Yeah,
and we talk about their outside backs, fullback Keano Kinney, Lofi Khan Pereira, Philip Sami, Brian Kelly, JJ Fafita was brilliant on the weekend. Their forward pack, as you said, just hard workers getting in there and doing the job done. I can't wait, Billy, until, we've got the rest of this year to play out and who knows what's going to happen. But both Famore and Tino Fasuamala-Awi haven't played a game together at the club. Or if they have, it's only been 1 or 2. So if they can get a full-strength roster on the field for most of next year, then who knows what can happen with this exciting group.
Yeah, I look at guys like Chris Randall, Aaron Clark. They've changed positions and they're doing a wonderful job. The other guy is Pahulu.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's how you say his name.
That's right.
Like these guys are just relishing underneath Des Hasler, simplifying their role. They're playing really tough, and they're doing a great job for their team. And like you mentioned, those outside backs, they're probably all in the the form of their career. Keano Kinney is a genuine star. Wasn't it great to see Keano Kinney and Reece Walsh just go toe-to-toe? Reece fired the first couple of shots, and then Keano fired back, and then Reece fired back. It was such a great game to watch with those two superstars just going after their game. And obviously Keano was on the receiving end of the winning team, but I thought Reece really stood up, especially in that first half, and put his team in a position to win the footy game.
Let's talk about the Broncos, and this season is just unravelling right before our eyes. There's no Payne Haas now, he's injured. Ezra Mam picked up an injury as well. They're out of finals contention. I know we've spoken about them a fair bit, Billy, but for the Brisbane Broncos, what can Kevin Walters do from here to keep them up, just to finish off the season that promised so much on a positive note? Well,
I'm not willing to write them off right now. You're out when you mathematically can't make the finals. Yep. I feel the magic number is 30. 30 points. There's 5 games to go. They're sitting on 20 points. If they win their last 5 games, they finish on 30 points. They've got a pretty good for and against those teams that are sitting above them. You're out when you're out. I feel like it's going to be really hard. I know they play the Melbourne Storm. I'm not sure there are other games, but they've got a few tough games coming up. But it's been disappointing the last little bit. There's no doubt about that. And they've had their fair share of things go against them. They were without Adam Reynolds for a long period of time. They didn't handle that as good as they probably would have liked. Payne Haas is a huge loss. But they've still got a great footy team. They've still got a really good footy team, and they're as much chance as a few of the other teams in the competition. So you're out when you're out, but there certainly is a feeling within the Broncos that they've just been beaten by the Gold Coast Titans by 46 points. They got put on them. So they need to sort their defence out. They need to find that hard edge, and that's not easy, to turn around in a week. So I get the feeling that it's near impossible to play finals, but I don't write anyone off until they're mathematically out.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. There is a bye in there too for Brisbane in that period, and if they do manage to beat the Cowboys this week, and then you never know, they could be get themselves up and about. There's also another home game against the Eels in there as well.
Yeah, well, just looking at their run home, they've got the Cowboys, then they've got the Parramatta Eels, then they've got the Dolphins, and then they've got the Melbourne Storm. So, like you said, they've got the bye after the Cowboys. So they get over the Cowboys, get a bit of confidence. They have the bye, they rest up. Then they go Parramatta, Dolphins, Melbourne Storm to finish. If they can win all those games up until that last round, that's going to be a huge Thursday night game leading into the finals with the Broncos, potentially keeping their season alive. So I'm sure Kevin Walters and the Broncos aren't thinking like that. It's great conversation for us. They need to get their footy going. They need to find out exactly what's not working. Adam Reynolds is there. I don't know how Ezra Mam is going. He came off with an ankle injury. But they've got a team there that they can perform, and they can get this done if they turn their footy around. But if they don't turn their footy around, it doesn't matter who they're playing. They could be playing the Innisfail Leprechauns. They've got to turn their footy around. That's the key.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we'll see how the next 5 weeks unfolds for Brisbane. Now, Melbourne Storm had a win this week, and it was over the Bulldogs in gaining the signing of Stefano Utoikamanu. So that's a welcome addition to the Storm lineup for the next few seasons.
I thought you were jet lagged then, Salty. I thought the Storm didn't win this week. You're an autopilot. Wow, what a signing that is. I know the Storm have been chasing a big front row signing for a while now. Obviously losing Jesse Bromwich, Kenny Bromwich, Felice Kafusi in the last few years to the Dolphins. And, they've done wonderfully well bringing these younger guys through. Josh King has done a fantastic job. Obviously, Tui Kamikamitha has come on into a leadership role at the Melbourne Storm. Nelson and McDonald is another one that's done well. Joe Chan. So there's been a number of players that have filled in these positions that the Bromwiches and Felice Kafusi have left. But the signing of a top line young front rower like Stefano Utuikamanu, that is a wonderful signing. And you look at the likes of Eli Katoa, Josh King, and the elevation of their careers under Craig Bellamy and in the Melbourne Storm system, it's pretty exciting where Stefano can take his game. Obviously he wasn't happy at the Tigers. It's unfortunate for the Tigers to lose a quality player like that. But this is the game. This is the business. We spoke about that last week, and Stefano's made the move to Melbourne, and he'll be heading down in the off-season. An off-season under Craig Bellamy, it's a huge signing for the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, it certainly is. Another one this week that is a big signing is Blaize Talagi, who is leaving the Eels, and Parramatta fans aren't too happy, particularly with where he's heading to, and that's the Penrith Panthers.
Has that been officially announced yet?
I presume so.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's another. You look at the two best teams in the competition. The two most consistent teams over a long period of time, and they're sitting at the top of the ladder, and they get two of the best young stars in our game coming through. Like that's a reflection of the environment, and these young kids want to put themselves in the best environment. And Blaize Talagi, I think he's probably the best young player in the game right now, and they're not short on young talent out at Penrith either. There was a young fullback that played, Isaiah Longy. Did I get that right? Isaiah Longy. I watched the game for about 5 minutes, and I saw three things that he did, and he really took my eye. He made a crucial tackle with 3 minutes to go. His team were up by 6, and he made the play. I think he's a star of the future. Young McLean in the centres is doing some great things. I think he's got a brother that's also in the system.
He does.
They just keep finding players. And over the last few years, the Panthers have done that. Isaac Tunga's come into the team. Taruva's come into the team. And they just keep unearthing these young players. And now they pick up a guy like Blaize Talagi. Like, every time I watch Blaize play, it confirms the toughness. It confirms the talent, the understanding of the game. I'm not sure what positions he's going to play out at Penrith. Is it 5'8"? Will he take the position of Jerome Luai? What a player to continue your career in the halves with outside Nathan Cleary, who's just lighting it up at the moment. So probably a really good move for Blaize to put himself in that footy team. That's another scary move for the competition, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly is. That's for sure. Now, on Friday night when we were over in the West, and we saw a very entertaining game of football. The Dolphins just so brave, aren't they? They just keep hanging in there. The Roosters got off to a flyer, and we thought, oh, hang on, this is going to be a long night at the office for the Dolphins. But let's focus on Sammy Walker and what he was doing, particularly in that first half over at HBF Park.
Yeah, well, after 10 minutes, it was 12-0 to the Roosters, and we thought, well, this is going to be a cricket score. But the Dolphins, in their traditional style, they fought back. They had a bit of adversity before the game. Cody Nikorima went down with illness. Tavita Pangai, he had a torn calf, so he didn't play either. So they had a reshuffle of their side, and they fought really hard, like they do, and they've been impressive in that part of the game for ever since they've come into the competition the last year and a half, and they made a real contest of it. Defence was optional for both teams. It was a try-scoring fest, but Sammy Walker, and he just does it in his own unique style. Andrew Johns was praising him, how he's just a free player. The coaches within the Roosters allow him to play his game, and if he sees an opportunity, he takes it, and it's not always going to come off. But it did remind Andrew Johns of Alan Langer, who was actually my favourite player, and it's probably those traits that, if he saw an opportunity, he was brave enough to go after it. And Sammy Walker's got that same attitude, and he scored a couple of tries, off his own kicks, and he's just a wonderful player to watch. He's really improved the defensive side of his game. He's only a small body, and that's always been a part of his game that has had a little bit of a deficiency around. And the more mature he gets, the more physically mature he gets. I think he's going to develop into a top line halfback. He's just gaining a lot of confidence at the moment, and he was the best player on the field over in Perth.
Yeah, he was brilliant over there. It was a terrific night. The Roosters, though, Billy, where do they sit in your opinion amongst the premiership contenders?
Well, they are right there. They're right there because of a couple of things, of their potential. They've got the best attack in the competition. And you can see that just reading their team list. You've got Tedesco at the back, who's ultra consistent. You have a look at their outside backs in Joey Manu, Suoli'i, Dom Young, who picked up a hamstring injury, so hopefully he's not out for too long. And then Tupou. They're all the same athletic size and dimension, but they've just got so much strike in their team. Then their creativity around their halves. I just feel the potential around the Roosters, and they show glimpses of it at times. Sometimes it's periods of the game. Sometimes it's a block of 2 or 3 games where they're just really dominant. But then they have this other side to them where they seem to get bored with that part of the game where they've just got so much talent that they just want to play all the time. So they've got to find that balance. The one thing with Trent Robinson over the years that I have learnt is that he's not too worried about the consistency week in and week out like some of the other coaches. I know Craig Bellamy is just like he labelled his team. His team has come off a 6 or 7 winning streak, and he blasted his team in the press conference. Where Trent Robinson's a bit more measured, and he's more about timing his run at the right time of the year, and he's got it right a few times when he's won premierships. If he can get that right with this team, they are as dangerous and as big a chance as anyone to hold the trophy up at the end of the year.
All right, yeah. No, when they're on, they are certainly on. Speaking of being on, the Eels, they were against the Warriors. It's been a season to forget for the team from across the Tasman, actually probably for both teams, Billy, but Eels fans up and about after that win and sets up a intriguing one for them, and they want to upset Penrith this coming Friday night. But good victory for Parramatta. And
they'll go out there and they'll try and do that. They've been fighting hard over the last few weeks, actually, the Parramatta Eels, and Trent Barrett has done a really good job. And I'm sure Jason Rolls, the new coach for next year, will be sitting back watching these players and enjoying the fight that they've got in them. It's all led through their captain, Clint Gutherson. He's all heart. He gives everything, and he gives a great example of how to play the game and the effort to play the game with. And I thought Dijon Arcee was fantastic playing in the halves, and they went over to New Zealand and they got the job done. So I'm sure that winning feeling in the dressing room drives these players to finish the season well. They are one team that can't play finals, but they'll be looking to disrupt as many teams as they can and create that feeling that they felt over there in that dressing room.
Yeah, and you probably didn't experience this all that often, Billy, playing in a successful team, but you often hear from different players that and coaches alike that if you can finish off the season well, get that feel-good factor going from when you all get back together in November, and all of a sudden you feel a bit better come pre-season rather than the opposite. If you finish the season on a low and you're thinking, oh, here we go, we've got to drudge through a pre-season, all about that mindset.
Yeah, there's not too many teams that finish the season on a high. Only one team finishes it on a really big high. But you can create some positivity around the place. That's one thing you can do. And the other thing is you can set a standard for your footy team. You can set a standard for yourself, and you can show the incoming coach that, hey, I'm here to play, and this is what I want to do. And I'm sure Jason Rolls is watching this last month and a bit, and deciding on positions, deciding on players. So you can send a message to that coach and say, this is where I want to play, and this is why I want to play there. And that feeling is so important. It's such a motivating factor to have that winning feeling, and it creates a really good environment. It creates a togetherness, and it becomes infectious. So I'm sure they'll want to keep that on the run.
The Billy Slater Podcast, and right now it's time for the Billy M Awards. Most impressive team from round 22. Boy, there's some contenders here for you, Billy.
There are. I want to give an honourable mention to the Titans. I think they were super up there in on the Gold Coast against the Brisbane Broncos. Their so-called big brother, but they really put them to the sword. So they don't get the award this week. They get the honourable mention. The team of the week goes to the Red V. That record, 25 years since they've won a game down in Melbourne. That's incredible to turn the tide on the Melbourne Storm and do it a real physical and tough way. I thought Jaden Sewell was outstanding, scored a couple of tries and really led the physicality of their footy team. Tyrell Sloan back in the team. They were the team of the weekend for me.
All right. Isn't that impressive, Billy, when you see someone who's left out of a side and obviously listens to the coach, goes away, works on whatever he needed to work on, great attitude, comes out and plays a game like Sloan did on Saturday night?
Yeah, and, there's always been a lot of talk about the defensive side of the game for Tyrell. He's still a young guy, and the demands of that position defensively now in the modern game are as high as it's ever been. He's a player. He always puts his body on the line. He's going to continue to grow in that part of the game, but some of the things he can bring to a footy team, not many people, not many players can bring those things. And the try he scored where he went through the middle of the field and he faked to kick the ball and he found some space, and then his speed just that's the difference, right? He doesn't do that, and he's not in the footy team. They probably don't beat the Melbourne Storm. You've got to have those classy players in your footy team, and Shane Flanagan's obviously working with him and helping him develop his game, and he's a wonderful player. I love watching him play. He's got a great attitude towards the game, and he's going to continue to grow. And like you said, he took that hit square on the chin, and he come back and he's a better player for it.
All right, so that is the most impressive team from round 22. What about the most impressive player? And like the team selection, boy, you've got some choices here. Yeah,
and I watched the guy front and centre yesterday. His name's Stephen Crichton. Hard to go past him. The occasion at Belmore was set up for the Bulldogs, and when an occasion is set up, you look to your leaders and you look to your senior players, and it didn't take long. He scored the first try, and it was through brute strength and power. He got rid of a couple of defenders in Chris and then Jordan Rapiner as well, not small guys, and just burst his way to the corner, scored the opening try. He ended up scoring 2 tries that yesterday, but it was the one that he set up for Josh Adokar late in the game. The game wasn't coming to him a whole heap, so he went over to the other side of the field, chased a bomb, outleapt the Raiders, and offloaded the ball to seal the game. Really, it was a huge play, and it's just a great example of when the game's not coming to you, the great players go to the game, and Stephen Crichton did that. He went out of position and he thought, this is what my team needs right now, and I'm going to go and do it. And he went and made it happen, and that's a sign of a great player. Stephen Crichton, the player of the weekend.
Yeah, he was brilliant yesterday. The roar when he scored that first try after such a tight opening, boy, was still get the hairs on the back of the neck standing up.
And we're not even Bulldogs. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the Bulldogs, the loyal Bulldogs supporters, the players, the coaching stuff, the feeling that they woke up with today. That is why this game is so good. Because everyone gets that feeling. Everyone attached to that football club, whether you're a supporter, a member, Gus Gould will be buzzing. Like, everyone would be feeling that feeling today, tomorrow, all week, and then they'll go to Cogra and they'll chase that feeling again. It's an incredible game, and people live their life for those feelings, and our game delivers them.
Yeah, certainly does. That's why there's none better, that's for sure. All right, you're watching the Billy Slater Podcast, and it's all thanks to Ram Trucks Eats Everything Else for breakfast. I've got some listener questions here for us, Billy, as I go to them. This one is from Mark, and I think we've half touched on this. What does a confidence-boosting win like that for the Dragons do, not only for the team, but for the whole club in general?
Yeah. Well, I've just spoken about what it does for your whole club, and we've just spoken about the Bulldogs, and it just gives life to the supporters. It gives life to everything, but what it does for the team. Look, these sort of wins, they give short-term confidence. And what I mean by short-term confidence, it gives you that real short-term feeling that wow, we're on top of the world at the moment. That doesn't last forever. The long-term confidence comes from your pre-seasons, your consistent actions around the effort of the game, and that belief that you can turn up and your team will turn up and do that all the time. You look at the Bulldogs, and the Dragons have done it to a certain extent, but that's what gives you the long-term confidence. But the short-term confidence is important for the short term, because it just gives you that feeling and that initial belief that you can, hey, we just did this, we can go and do it again. But it's the consistent actions of your teammates and yourself that you can do it all the time. That's the long-term confidence that the Panthers have got, that the Melbourne Storm have got. A lot of the other teams are still chasing that long-term confidence, but the short-term confidence, you'd rather have it than not.
All right, good question there, Mark. This one's from Warren. Hey, Billy, what is your favourite stadium/park to play at other than Amy or Suncorp?
Oh, that's a really good question, and it's not any one, I don't think, but I love the small suburban grounds. Like, we went over to Perth, was it HBF Park over there, fit 20,000 people in. It was full. That's a great environment. Belmore, I would have loved to play at Belmore, especially in the environment that was yesterday. That is super. I love playing in those small suburban grounds. People are hanging off the rafters. They're everywhere. The atmosphere is incredible. They're the great stadiums to play at. Obviously, your state of origins at Suncorp Stadium, and your grand finals at Accor, and the 90,000 people. That's impressive, and that's a great feeling. But our game has been built on the suburban grounds, and going out to Leichhardt Oval and these sort of places that are full and hostile, and they're great environments. You get dressed in the sheds. It's cold. There's concrete everywhere. It's a little bit old school, but they were good feelings to run out and play a game of footy in.
You know what I love about Leichhardt? I don't think our good mate and colleague Jonathan Thurston liked it all that much, is that you get that, as you say, tribalism and the like. We were at Leichhardt on Thursday night for Cowboys against West Tigers, and JT's record at Leichhardt Oval. Sorry, Jonathan. I know.
What was it?
0-6. 0-6. And let me tell you, as soon as...
Geez, you're slipping the boot into JT today, aren't you?
As soon as the fans in the stand realised that he was sitting in the commentary box, they were relentless for the 80 minutes. JT was a great sport, right? And in the end, they gave him claps and high fives and the like. But yeah, 0-6, poor JT.
What about that? You got one of the greatest players. He's probably going to be an immortal, Jonathan Thurston. Like, he's one of the greatest players this game has seen. The Tigers haven't exactly been on top of the competition for the last 2 decades, and he hasn't won a game at Leichhardt. Like, That's an incredible record. Probably one that's unbelievable. But the other great thing about grounds like Leichhardt, I love the trees. The the fig trees or maple trees, whatever they are, the big fig trees at the back that overhang the North Sydney Oval is like that, and it reminded me over in Perth there were those big fig trees outside, and just something about the trees in and around the stadiums.
Yeah, great, some nice character and like absolutely right.
I'm a tree man too.
Warren.
Love the big gum trees and that sort of stuff.
Nice, nice. The ones with leaves and bark and all that on them. Now, NRLW on the weekend, the Knights defeated the Raiders in a thriller, 26-20. Titans are looking really impressive early, 28-12 over the Tigers. Sharks in a tight one over the Eels, 18-16. Roosters were terrific against the Broncos, 28-12. And what about this game last night? The Cowboys defeating the Dragons 38-34 in a thriller. Now, the NRLW season only 2 weeks old, but boy, they've hit the ground running. There's been some terrific games.
Yeah, Titans, Sharks, and the Knights. Knights have won the last 2 premierships, and they're looking like they're going to be in the race to win their 3rd premiership in a row. So the Roosters picking up their first win of the season on the weekend, and it's only a short season, the NRLW season, so you really got to get a wriggle on early and accumulate these wins. Otherwise, the season will get away from you. So, congratulations to the Cowboys girls. I always thought that they should be called the Cowgirls. Can we change that? Surely we can. We've got a bit of pull in this game that we can change it to the Cowgirls.
You do.
Anyway, congratulations to the Cowgirls.
Yeah, well done to them. Big games coming up this week for those teams at the top of the ladder, for those teams, when we turn our attention to round 23 of the NRL, for those teams in that logjam down the middle of the table. We've already spoken about Saturday night. We'll be there for Channel 9 at Cogra when the Dragons do battle with the Bulldogs, but Dolphins Warriors is a massive game. Billy, Raiders Manly is another big one as well. And you know what? The teams at the top as well, when we start off on Thursday night, when the Storm head to Accor to take on the Rabbitohs, they'll want to not turn it into 2 losses in a row, Melbourne. So some big ones to come this week.
Yeah, I could imagine Craig Bellamy this week looking for that bounce-back factor for his team. The Cowboys and the Broncos on Saturday afternoon. The Cowboys, that could sink the Broncos' season. I'll still give them that chance, but if they get beaten by the Cowboys this week, it is literally game over for the Broncos. So that'll be desperate stakes there. And the Cowboys they're just flying under the radar at the moment. They're not playing as good as they can play, but they're accumulating. A win from the Cowboys will go a long way for them to play finals, but it's all on the Broncos. The season's on the line this weekend, and it's up against their rival of Queensland. We all remember that grand final back in 2015, and it's time for the Broncos to really put it all on the line.
Yeah, that'll be a terrific game up north on Saturday. Well, Billy, there's been so much to discuss, and now, as we always say, so much to look forward to as well. So bring on round 23 of the NRL and round 3 of NRLW this coming weekend. Some terrific footy to look forward to.
Only 9 weeks to go in the competition. So it's nearly there. It's nearly there. So I look forward to it, mate.
Thanks, Billy. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Salty.
Thanks, Billy. Billy Slater there. This has been the Billy Slater Podcast. And as always, it is thanks to Ram Trucks. Eats everything else for breakfast. And don't forget, a new episode drops each and every Monday.